So I wanted to share some tactical shooter news that's come up recently. Um, One thing I missed in the last installment of last and first installment of tactical shooter news is that squad version 13, or is that 1.3? But they're calling it squad version 13. Um, it's been, I believe it's been released. I've seen people playing it. As you can see, Karma Cut has some videos up about it. So just go to YouTube, go to Karma Cut's channel, Karmakut, and just watch his videos on it. There's really no reason for me to go over it since it's old news anyway. He'll give you the straight scoop. A lot of his viewership comes from his broadcasts of Squad, and for good reason, because he publishes excellent content, video content of some great gameplay that I believe takes place on the Squad Ops GG server. I think there may be more than one Squad Ops GG server, so how you figure out which one he's playing in, I'm not sure. I've tried to join one of his games, but they're always packed. So maybe one day I'll get to play in a Karma Cut game and probably get my arse thoroughly trounced by him. I really need to play that game a lot more because unless the target's pretty close, I'm not getting a kill from that person. Just don't aim well enough, or just don't see them fast enough. Pretty much the same problem I have in other games, like PUBG. Probably not so much Arma 3. I think I've got kind of a trained eye for the Arma series. But, yeah, PUBG, forget about it. I'll keep playing, keep trying to get better in PUBG, though. I think there's some PUBG-related news, but that probably happens pretty often, so... And I really don't know enough about the game yet to discern what's really newsworthy and what's not in their updates. So moving on, in Rainbow Six Siege, which I admit I haven't been playing that much lately in recent weeks, there's a new update coming out called Operation Phantom Sight. I guess these updates must have a theme to them, because what was the last one that was like something Australian was going on, some kind of operation in Australia? I didn't really understand it, or how to, I mean, whether there were like special missions you could play just for that Australian theme. I don't know. But they're calling this one Operation Phantom Sight, as you can see from the page at Ubisoft. It kind of has like a almost like a thermal look to it. The advertising graphic, I'm not sure if that's what it looks like in the game. I don't know. But it says it brings two haunting operators to us. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Looks like Noak, maybe, and Warden. So, and also there's a rework of Cafe Dostoevsky. And there's some updates to the reverse friendly fire feature that was recently implemented to reduce team killing and griefing. So just to read, Noak's gadget is the ultimate form of stealth technology. The Hel, H-E-L, by the way, that's the Norse goddess of the underworld, is a glove attachment, which by the way, means that really hell as a place, it's not found in the Old Testament or the New Testament, because neither one of those are of the Norse mythos, however you pronounce that, or of the Norse pantheon. It's because the 1611 King James Version, inherited some influence from Nordic culture. I'm sure, the Vikings invaded in places in the UK, what's now the UK, that they probably inherited that name, Hell. But in the Greek, it's Hades. In the Hebrew, it's Sheol. And I'm not even sure that it's a place in Hebrew. It may just be a term that's pretty generic for the grave, and that kind of got blown up through what I call capitalization, where you take a rather mundane and common word, like, for example, Messiah, which means anointed, and then you capitalize the first letter of the word, and all of a sudden it becomes the Messiah, like it's, the one and the only, or the final, the ultimate Messiah, when, all of the kings of Israel were called Messiah. The high priest of Israel was called Messiah, and, or Mashiach, more properly. And, even Cyrus, the Great of Persia, who wasn't even Israelite, Koresh, he was specifically named as Mashiach in Isaiah chapter 45. I think it's verse 1, or around the first few verses of that chapter, which is pretty unusual. So there in the Old Testament, you have a specific by-name mention of who was considered a Messiah by one of the prophets, yet you find no by-name mention of Jesus or Yeshua or Yehoshua or any variant of the name being the Messiah anywhere in the Hebrew Tanakh, the Hebrew scriptures. And that explains why the Jews don't accept Jesus as the Messiah. That and the fact that he just doesn't fulfill some of the basic expectations of what a Messiah, an eschatological Messiah, was supposed to be. Anyway, moving on, away from the religion. You're not here for religion, but, I thought I'd give you a little education along the way, because you might sorely be in need of it. But here we have this glove attachment called the Hel, and when activated, it reduces her ambient noise output and hides her image from the opponent's observation tools. Drones, bulletproof cameras, evil eyes, and more will thus be unable to register Noak's presence as she roams throughout the map unseen. Her footsteps will be silenced as she stalks opposing operators unheard. Roaming will be more risky than ever for defenders, as Noak could be hiding behind every corner or sneaking up right behind them. Keep in mind that the Hel has a limited window of usage and must otherwise be recharged through a cooldown. So it's no mystery that Rainbow Six Siege has followed in the footsteps of previous Rainbow games and gone the direction of science fiction. So what happens is, the more operators you have with special abilities, then you have to create other operators with abilities that counter the special abilities of the operators you've already released, and it kind of becomes one big game of Pokemon, or Magic the Gathering. This is called tactical shooter news. There's no doubt that there are tactics involved in Rainbow Six Siege, and there's enough of the old Rainbow Six that I do have fun playing it. But it is science fiction, and it's moving away from realism, and it's doing so to please a broader base of players, to appeal to a broader base of players, and to keep it actiony and accessible, I guess. Which, you know, the more realistic you get in a tactical shooter, the more niche it becomes. Or is that niche? I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but you know, it caters to just a segment of the gaming population. Many players get turned off by realism, but I don't believe that realism is the enemy of fun. I believe that realism unrealized is the enemy of fun. It's when you don't achieve the realism that players are wanting that you don't have fun. That's why Squad is a really popular tactical shooter, is because of all the realism that's in it. You never hear gamers complaining that the graphics in a game are too realistic. It never happens. So, or you never hear them complaining that the soundscape in a game is too realistic, you know, unless it's blowing out their eardrums when they put headphones on. But that's why you have a volume slider. It only seems to be when physics are being simulated, or gameplay, or human movement, or weapon simulation is trying to be realistic, that then players might begin to complain about realism. So apparently those who complain about realism in those areas, they are quite tolerant of realism when it comes to graphics and sound effects. And that's why I don't listen to those hypocrites. Yep, I said it. They're hypocrites. So, whereas Rainbow Six Siege has gone the way of science fiction and is moving away from realism, the kind of realism you found in tactical shooters like Konami's The Regiment, in the original Rainbow Six, in the original Rogue Spear, even Raven Shield, you know, barring, of course, the heartbeat sensor. Anyway, I'm for the realism. So, moving on, the next operative is Warden, and he has a feature, special ability called the Glance. You know, I thought the Glance was like something you made at a lady in order to take her home. But anyway, the Glance serves as a function that was almost non-existent on the defending team. Yeah, because you need a new card to counter the special abilities of another card that you created. It becomes a never-ending cycle of move and counter move. With it active, Warden can see through smoke and turn around what could be a low intel situation. Activating his smart glasses can also prevent Warden from being blinded by flash effects or cleanse an existing flash blindness salvaging an otherwise dangerous few seconds. Okay, I could see the first part. It could prevent him from being blinded by flash effects because you can have glasses that actually polarize in an instant and, could protect your vision. But cleansing existing flash blindness, if your retina has been blasted with bright light, I don't know how a pair of glasses would counter that. You're talking magic now. I don't see any scientific way to do that. Unless they inject some kind of drug that immediately does something to the retina to, again, science fiction. However, the glance's effects only work as long as Warden stays immobile. Oh yeah, sure, that makes total sense. This is all game balancing. This is game balancing to counter other game balanced special abilities. It's just, come on, dude. At least Sledge, he's got a sledgehammer. Yeah, that's pretty real world. It's pretty realistic. Would it take down some of the barriers it does with one blow? Probably not, but at least we're somewhat in the realm of realism. That's why I like some of those entry-level operators the most, because their special abilities are closer to reality. Otherwise, he is affected by smoke and flashes the same as everyone else. The glance is a triggered effect which must be restored through a cooldown after use. Cooldowns, just like something you'd probably see in World of Warcraft, right? I don't know. Cooldowns, come on. So, and, keep in mind all this criticism, however harsh, take it in light of the fact that I still think Rainbow Six Siege is a really fun game, and I enjoy it, when I play it. So there's a rework of Cafe Dostoevsky. Let's see, from the outside you can barely notice the difference, save from a few windows which are no longer destructible. On the inside, however, many areas have been renovated to improve replayability and gameplay opportunities. Most of the first floor has been redesigned, with the most drastic change around the north entrance. This main entrance now resembles the lobby of a high-end catering establishment with multiple areas to take advantage of. The second floor now features a pair of bomb sites in fireplace hall and reading room. The stairs leading up from the main entrance have also been repositioned. On the third floor, the easternmost part has changed, rearranging the layout of Cocktail Lounge and giving it a balcony that overlooks the second floor. The cigar shop has also gained a brand new balcony opposite that one. In the southeast corner, the staircase now has a barrier which limits the angles one can hold or exploit. While other areas of the map remain essentially the same, all of it has received an aesthetic revamp that gives the map an even more sleek and chic atmosphere. Feel free to test out these changes on our test server and submit your feedback on R6Fix, which I don't even know what R6Fix is yet. So, and then finally it talks about reverse friendly fire. Reverse Friendly Fire was released with the latest update to Operation Burnt Horizon. For Phantom Sight, however, we aim to refine this feature with updates and improve the effectiveness of how all types of damage to teammates, such as explosives and toxic gas, will be reversed to the player under penalty, with a few exceptions. And then there's a ranked playlist update and a new shop front. I didn't even know there was a shop in the game. Guess it makes sense because I've seen a lot of players with all kinds of customized, personalized gear and wear and kits and loadout. Anyway, so whereas Rainbow Six Siege goes off in the direction of science fiction, another game is giving us something closer to reality. And Insurgency Sandstorm version 1.2 is now live on the community test environment. Through Steam, you can download the test environment. It becomes a whole new installation, so it takes up the space you need. And then I found that some of your settings from your default game may actually carry over to the test environment when you go into it, and vice versa, because I think when I went back to the default game, I saw some of my settings in the default game that I had taken in the test environment. So I've got to go through and remap my key bindings the way I want them, I think. Anyway, I've put up a video, and others have too, of some of this update in the test environment. So basically you can read all of this, but there are two new weapons, the M99 and the M82A1 anti-material rifles, basically the Barrett 50 cal, and then the M99, which is 12.7 millimeter, and that might just be another way of saying 50 cal. I'm not sure. I know that's like Dishka ammo, so that might be I'm not even sure if Dishka ammo is a cartridge that's close to or the same as 50 cal. I ought to know, but I don't. There's a new map called Outskirts. I uploaded a video about it to YouTube on the TAC Shooter account. I like the map. It's very three-dimensional. There's a lot of variety in the architecture. You can even snipe on it, apparently, from what I've seen in videos where players are using the new 50 cal type rifles. There's a new game mode, no doubt inspired by Karma Cut's videos, where he has set up a server to be as realistic as possible. And I think the developers for Insurgency Sandstorm took that trend and took it even further, because it looks like the hardcore game mode implements some ideas that will make it even more challenging. I know I've overheard conversation of players talking about the update. I think I might have been, I don't know if default movement speed has also been changed, or whether I was playing hardcore co-op, but players were remarking how the movement speed is slowed down, and one player called it delicious. I saw another commenter refer to the update as 3 steps forward, 0 steps backwards. There's really a lot of goodness in it. Let's see. In the cosmetics, for example, there are now balaclavas and neck gaiters, high and low, for the security faction. There's also Swedish M90 camouflage for the security faction. Although in my opinion, the blotches are kind of big on the M90. It's still cool. M90 is one of my favorite woodland camouflage patterns. Whether insurgents in the Middle East would be using it is another question, but I don't really care about that question too much. It does maybe threaten the immersion factor, maybe, just as weapons that you probably wouldn't see in the Middle East being toted by insurgents or underfunded security forces, how that might threaten your immersion, but it's a game, and players want what they want. It might be that someone can actually produce photographs of security forces or insurgents in the Middle East with these weapons and wearing these camouflage uniforms. Let's see. There's an upgrade to Unreal Engine 4.22. I think that was part of what Squad version 13 undertook. There are visual improvements. I won't get into the specifics there. Yeah, optimize my PC, right. And then there are some fixes also. Like, one big one that I heard people complaining about was that the A10 audio sound didn't appear to be in the game anymore, so they say that should be fixed now. Stability, I think I've experienced this. Some users may experience a crash when exiting the game. I've experienced a crash like during the game sometimes. Let's see. Okay, so that's about it for that. In World War II Online, there are some updates. Zoom reports that they've, I believe he's one of the devs of the Cornered Rats. He says, we made some changes to help stabilize Time Zone 3 during a lower population period. That there are less players playing during Time Zone 3 apparently. And that's kind of the thing with World War II Online, is that it's played by Europeans and Americans alike, and you get population fluctuations because I think Europeans want to play Germans more. I'm not sure, but so you get to like times of the day when the Germans push forward because they have higher numbers, and then other times when the Allies are better able to defend. So they say they've made some adjustments to how the number of available attack and bridge objectives are available. Naval garrisons have received some riflemen to assist with base operations. We have also provided a quick fix to random instant capturing issue that popped up this morning. These changes are already effective as of 3 May. Oh, so this is old news. They've adjusted population thresholds for more areas of operation, or attack objectives in this case, in this game, I guess. Bridge objective adjustments. Minimum number of bridge objectives has been changed from 4 to 6. Obviously, bridges are kind of important if you're trying to get across a river, like the Rhine. Let's see, what else do they report here? So, what is this World War II Online? Well, you may have seen Heroes and Generals being advertised on, was it Discord? And while the graphics look more pleasing in Heroes and Generals, from what I've seen the gameplay, it looks like a rather chaotic, arcadey, gamey experience. The map, the way the map works, it looks pretty cool. If I remember correctly, you get like an overhead map, and then if you click on a spot, then it goes from that overhead view to and zooms in down to the ground level 3D view in game. So that's cool. But does it result in realistic gameplay or kind of gamey gameplay? Well, from what I've observed, and I could watch more videos of the game, it looks kind of gamey to me. World War II Online is hardcore tactical action, full spectrum warfare. It's in the air. Players are operating aircraft all over a half-scale map of Western Europe. That's France, the Netherlands, Belgium, England, Germany, and you've got action on the ground. That's foot soldiers, trucks, tanks, AT guns, AA guns. You have naval warfare. You've got ships going up and down the Rhine. I think. Don't quote me on that. I know I've seen them in the water around the coastline. Whether I've seen them on the Rhine is another matter. Let's see, what else do you have? I guess that about covers it, doesn't it? Oh, well, there's another aspect to it, and that is that at the high command level, which if you have the rank, I suppose you might find yourself in a high command role during a campaign, and a campaign might last a month. It depends on how quickly one side can prevail over the other, but on the map of Western Europe, you can see how the front line moves minute to minute in real time on the Cornered Rats website for World War II Online. So there's a strategic level of play going on, and then you have a chain of command that goes all the way down to the rifleman. You will have to join a unit, and then depending on where that unit is deployed, that's where you will deploy. But you can, hop from unit to unit if you want. That's how you play in different areas of the map as you wish. World War II Online's graphics are admittedly dated, but the gameplay is it's really kind of unbeatable. There's nothing like it. Arma 3 does have large maps, but they're nothing in comparison to the map that World War II Online uses. So I'd have to say that World War II Online is still the reigning full-spectrum warfare tactical first-person shooter slash flight combat flight sim slash naval warfare sim slash armored warfare sim slash truck driving. It goes on, and they're all operated by players. So when you participate in a battle in a town in World War II Online, if the guys operating your AA guns fail to shoot it down, you may have an HE-111 overfly the town you're fighting in and drop a string of bombs through the town. Maybe it'll get you, maybe it won't. There's not too much you can do about it if you're in that line of fire. Maybe you could get in a building. Maybe it will provide enough cover, but it's dropping bombs on that town with the aim of destroying things. Fighters will be dogfighting overhead. Maybe they'll break and do a strafing run on people in the town. Tanks will be closing in on a town. AT guns in the town will be firing on the tanks, trying to keep the tanks at bay. Tanks will be mowing down infantry from a long distance with coaxial machine guns. Meanwhile, foot soldiers are battling it out in the town in, full FIBUA, fighting in built-up areas, MOUT, military operations in urban terrain, CQB, whatever you want to call it. It's in World War II Online and has been for a long time. I'd be playing it right now, but I gotta figure out some kind of complication with my old account. It's tied to an email address, and I've got to get them to straighten that out before I can play again. But I strongly recommend it. It's pay to play. So, there will be a monthly subscription, but you won't find an experience like it anywhere else. Heroes and Generals doesn't begin to touch it. That's too gamey. In World War II Online, when a tank is off in the distance and you peek, to take a look at it with binoculars, and it hoses you from coaxial machine gun from a distance, it's doing so because that's its capability. You won't see them taking a tank in full speed, driving it into the middle of a town and expecting to use it as some kind of CQB platform, because it'll get killed. It'll get taken out. More often than not, you'll see them being used at long ranges, just as you would use a long-range weapon system's capabilities to gain an advantage over shorter-range weapon systems. This is realism. This is not only a tactical gameplay, but as you go up the chain of command, it's strategic gameplay. So, let's see, there was a item in Discord I wanted to share for Ground Branch, which, if you don't know what Ground Branch is, it's basically the new true Rainbow Six, true Ghost Recon experience, because at least one of the devs had worked on those titles with Red Storm Entertainment, I believe, and this early access title is aiming to be the reigning realistic CQB tactical shooter. And the maps aren't just CQB, there's some long distance sight lines in them too. But there's a group on Discord, and they're setting up a wiki for Ground Branch and tutorial videos on how to operate realistically in the game. I uploaded a video where I captured them teaching a CQB class and going through a kill house and clearing the kill house very methodically, and teaching players who were there how to do so. You can find that on my TAC Shooter account on YouTube, where I think I titled it something like Professional CQB Training in Ground Branch, and that's because as far as I could tell, it looked like professional CQB training, and the guys who were teaching it seemed to know what they were talking about. So that's all the news for now. If you come across any news for your favorite tactical shooter, you could send it my way somehow. You could reach me through Steam or Discord as TacShooter. You could message me on YouTube, or maybe, I'm not sure if there's a messaging utility on Twitch, but you can reach me somehow. You can leave a comment in this video if you're watching it on YouTube, for example. And then I'll be sure to share it in the next installment of Tactical Shooter News. If you like this sort of content and any of my opinions ring true with you, and we are of the same mind, or even just similar minds, or even trending in the same direction, you can expect my future content to be along the same lines. So please subscribe. It helps me out. Comment, share, because so far this streaming endeavor has kind of been like an albatross, a flightless bird. It's having a tough time getting off the ground. And I mean, an albatross can, of course, achieve flight, but maybe with some difficulty. I'm not sure. I'm not part of the Audubon Society. I'm not an expert, don't claim to be. I do know that penguins aren't found in Alaska.